I think we've got a quorum. Do you mind calling us to order this morning? Doing a roll call.
Michael Brown,
Here.
Peter Dillinger,
Here.
Randy Gilbert,
Here.
Edward Hillary,
Here.
Rob Seaman,
Here.
Kendra Wesson, here, and Superintendent Walters.
Here. So we do have a quorum. Let's go ahead and get started here. We got first on deck. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I look on the flag salute. I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unite all people. And now a moment of silence. Thank you. I've got two comments that I really want to make here in the opening statements. First of all, I want to commend Director Haken. One of the things that we've tried to work on is, and we've talked about this as a board, how do we allow for more students to be in CareerTech centers? What are the barriers? How do we break them down? So the director reached out to me earlier in the week. And one of the things he identified was some of the standards that we have in place have been so finely written or so specific in the way that we've applied these standards that some of the CareerTech courses have not been able to apply for these standards. He reached out to me. He already identified a few of them. We're going to work with our staff to clear that up because I do not believe that's the intent of these standards, is to not qualify. And if Director Haken doesn't mind here in his comments, if you can kind of give them some specifics on it. But I just wanted to point out how proactive he was to reach out to us to say, look, if we could apply this a little differently, these courses could be made available for credits, which would open up so many more students to be able to take these classes. So not only are we going to address the comments that he made and those standards he made, we're doing an overhaul here to look at any kind of barriers in our standards that could apply to CareerTechs. We're also looking, and we had some meeting with some CareerTech directors. I was out in Woodward on Tuesday, and they reiterated your comments of what can we do to further create an environment where more kids get more credit for CareerTech courses. I think this is a great opportunity for us to all work together to say our CareerTechs are doing a great job. So what can we do to make sure that students are rewarded proper credits for attending those courses? And it also really opens things up. Also talking to the superintendents out in Woodward and Guyman, this gives them a lot more opportunities as well for their schedule to be more flexible so that more kids can take it. So I wanted to point that out. I really appreciate the superintendent's efforts there. Getting to tour Woodward also gave me an opportunity to be very reflective on ways that K-12 can do a better job of creating an environment to feed more kids into CareerTechs. High Plains Tech out in Woodward, getting to see what they do, and I'll just give you guys a brief description of what they're doing with their K-12 school. They have what they call a TAP program, which is applying a lot of the CareerTech offerings into their grade schools, so that the students begin to interact with CareerTech professionals. They begin to get introduced to some of those subjects, again, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. So they have a pipeline of students that are already before middle school even, saying, hey, that's what I'm going to go do. I am going to go get involved in this program. And what it really enables them to do is they are able to recruit basically students at that early age. And again, I got to go meet some of the students, and they're going, hey, this is what I want to do. I figured it out. I'm in 4th grade, and I know this is what I want to do. And it was really, really incredible. And so one of the things that we're going to be working on is how do we continue to see programs like that? And again, it's the CareerTech over there in Woodward are literally helping pay for some of the bus routes. They're literally helping pay some of the salaries of some of the teachers. It is an incredible joint offering there between the high school and the CareerTech Center, and I would love to see this duplicated around the state. So one of the things we're going to look at is how do we as K-12 make sure that we're engaging in those type of partnerships, given those opportunities. But how can we work together to, again, get more students where they're getting more of an opportunity to see what the CareerTech programs are offering? And I just love the ability to do that much earlier in a kid's career. So those were the two comments I wanted to make. Again, I had a great visit out there. I always love getting out and being able to see the different CareerTechs around the state and what they're doing. But I thought just their partnership there was exceptional, and really, I was really proud to see that. So that's all I have for opening comments. I'll kick it over to you, Director Aiken.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Superintendent, and we'll expand on that just a little bit. But before I do, Andrew, do you mind standing up? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andrew Holder. She is our new Assistant Attorney General since we had Glenn retire. She's our replacement there, and we're so excited to have her on with us and working with us, keeping us legal. So just wanted you guys to be able to meet Andrea. All right, to expand a little bit on what Superintendent Walters is talking about, the bulk of my time has been spent this fall on not only seeing what we're doing, but how do we expand what we're doing. We know that there was an 11,000 student wait list last year. That is about a 25% increase in full-time students served if we looked at it that way. So we've set a goal to make sure that we get to at least 10,000 students over the next 5 years. That's the biggest increase in CareerTech service that we've ever had in our history, while understanding that financial contributions from the state have not picked up in 13 years. So how do we make sure that we eliminate all the obstacles that we have? How do we make sure that we work together to maximize the efficiencies that we have, in hopes that the legislature will also understand that there is an increased need in CTE courses across our whole state. So to put that in perspective of how do we make sure that work happens, so graduation requirements, which Superintendent is talking about, have been applied to hinder what CTE courses count for. They are currently only counting as electives in most cases. A few one-off cases where they've been allowed to count for a core curriculum or a fine art, those things. But we're working on how do we maximize the students' time? How do we get them on the path that we need them on? So we realize in this state that only 32% now of our high school graduating seniors go to higher education. We are only currently serving about 27%. So there's a whole bunch of students that are getting nothing. So we need to make sure that we're reaching all of those students. And what we see in like Western Oklahoma is that actually under 20% go into a college or university. So how do we make sure that they have post-secondary opportunities that lead into great careers for them? So that's really what the cusp of this is all about. Also thinking about high school graduation rates and how does CareerTech help K-12? Well, CareerTech programs help motivate students to see that there is potential to stay in education. So with a graduation rate that we need to work on and we need to increase, we think that we can play a vital role in grasping those kids and making sure that they understand there's potential for them and there's hope for them if they stay in education. So we're going to work together a lot to figure out how can we be an extension of what K-12 does, but then also lead students into post-secondary opportunities. So every way that we can expand those is great. So one of the programs that Superintendent's talking about is the TAP program at Woodward. We also have a program at EOC where they work on second and third graders in STEM fields and how do they understand what's available in CareerTech careers. And we have varied versions of these all across the state. Currently, we don't collect any of that data. So that's what we're going to work on at the agency is how do we collect that data and show the impact that we're making for those students. Also, currently, we have not deviated from how we not only fund, but how do we count in the profiles the students that we serve. So with a giant waiting list like we have, we know that we may have to modify how students are served because schedules are difficult. So looking at course-only options and what do those count for in a school and how can we make sure that we are reaching out into the schools and serving. We have a lot of technology centers that are looking for their growth because they can't build buildings right away because that costs a lot of money and we have a limited building fund. So how can we go into the K-12s and build our programs within them in a partnership model? So we're looking at changing some of the things that we offer, not that we're going to reduce rigor or reduce the hours offered, but how can we do it differently? We haven't changed that model in quite some time, so I think there's some opportunities for growth. So that's kind of the work that we're doing right now, and definitely would entertain any questions that you guys may have as we go through things. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask those. But I know that we have some great things to talk about today, and I think Randy's got to leave a little bit early, so we'll get through as much as we can, as quick as we can. Thank you all.
Thank you for that, Director. And next we have a discussion and vote on the minutes. Now, I know I was gone. and I know Mr. Seaman was gone as well, so, I'm going to abstain when it comes to my turn here on these minutes, but could I have somebody make a motion to approve in a second?
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. You mind calling roll for us?
Okay. Peter Dillingham,
Yes.
Kendra Wesson,
Yes.
Michael Brown,
Yes.
Randy Gilbert,
Yes.
Edward Hillary,
Yes.
So next we have a presentation of agency and membership organization from Ms. Sky McNeil.
So while Sky's coming to the podium, I'll mention that it's been a great way for our members to engage with the agency by having the partnership that we have with Sky from our membership organization. We're lucky in our state to have so many members that are plugged in. That's our teachers, that's our administrators, everybody that's plugged into a part of the membership organization and making sure that we can work collaboratively.
Good morning. Thank you, Director, Superintendent, board members. My pleasure to be here with you today and talk about OKACTE, which is our state affiliation professional association. We're about 4,500 members strong, and our main task is to go to the Capitol and lobby, and that is something, oddly enough, I love to do. And I asked Director Haken if he wanted the 45-minute version. He said no. So I'm going to get through a lot of information. I do want to just briefly tell you a little bit about me. I have 3 daughters, so that's entertaining on its own. But a couple of things you have to do to live in my house is you have to be a part of the CareerTech system. So my older 2 daughters, both in FFA. I have one in college. She went through FFA, and she was in the pre-engineering program at Central Tech. Which was a really wonderful program for her to go to. Central Tech, because it is a cooperative type of school, was able to offer her upper-level science and math that she was not able to get at her sending school. Not because there was anything wrong with her sending school. We come from a very small rural school. So she was able to get those AP courses along with many other kids from very small schools at a tech center and had phenomenal teachers. In fact, she often talks about her pre-engineering teacher, Mr. Applegate. She really wants to make him proud, which is interesting. I was thinking about that. She often will say, hey, I learned this from Mr. Applegate, and her studying skills or whatever that is, she reflects a lot on her time at Central Tech. She was also a part of FFA, and that really gave her the speaking skills and the skills that she needed to be successful and just communicate and interact with folks. My middle daughter, for those of you who have multiple kids, know that they're very different. My middle daughter is in FFA and is in the welding program at Central Tech. And what is interesting about her is she takes after her mama. Math is not our thing. And so math was really a struggle for her, and it really affected her self-confidence. It affected a lot of things. And so Jameson is in the welding program and just is really loving it. And so a couple of weeks ago, she also rides cutting horses, and we were at a show, and there was a saddle rack on a stall, and I said, Jay, we've got to get you one of those because we're lugging the saddle. Anyway, she said, Mama, I'll just make it. And I'm like, okay. I don't know, but all right. So she goes to school, and I don't say much about it. And last week, she said, hey, Mom, I'm about done with my saddle rack. I said, oh, you are? She said, yeah. So I knew she had taken her saddle to school, and she said, so I measured it. She said it looked so smooth, and I just did the grinding just right, and she had to figure all of the angles. She had to figure how she wanted it, because I said, do you want to take a picture of this? She said, no, I can do it. So she was doing math, and she never knew it. And I didn't tell her. I'm not going to tell her that's math, but she was doing angles and figuring out how long she needed to make it, how wide she needed to make it, what all of that needed to look like to make the saddle rack. And she is so proud of it. In fact, she texted me on the way here and said, hey, I'm at Tech, I'm finishing the painting, I'll bring it home and show it to you today. She is so ecstatic with herself right now. And that may seem like a little thing, but for a young woman who struggled with a little bit of self-confidence, she is just booming and thriving. And that is going to change her trajectory forever. And it is just wonderful as a mother to watch. My youngest daughter is in the 6th grade, and she is a part of the FACS program. They have a program that reaches down into the junior high, upper elementary, and she is a junior officer, and she thinks it's fabulous. And she just asked me, her birthday's in November, and she said, I think I want a sewing machine. I said, great, I can get that, but I'm not sure how to help you with that, man. But they're opening doors. CareerTech is opening doors for my 3 daughters that I am not able to open myself for them. And so it's really great to have this team in this system, and my kids will tell you that much of their success as they've gone through their educational career has been to their to CareerTech, whether that's their programs in their K-12 sending schools or whether it's a tech center. All of them have to be a part of a K-12 program and be a part of the tech center. They can pick their programs, but that's just the rules that we have to do or that they have to do, and they don't fuss with me too much about it. But I just want to tell you, I came through FFA. CareerTech is not just something I do because they pay me. It is something that I live and breathe and that I just instill in my children, and I talk about it often. And it is something that is an absolute joy and pleasure of mine to talk about at the Capitol with legislators and try to teach them and encourage them. It's always an educational process with term limits, right? And so we're always talking about things with CareerTech, and I'm able oftentimes to talk about things that my kids are going through, because sometimes we'll have challenges with legislators who don't understand why do you have STEM programs? Why do you have pre-engineering or biomed at such a young age? Why do you do upper-level math and science? And we can talk about those, and I can give them a real-life example of how that's changed my kids. But you all know, as board members, that we are unique. You've heard that. We're unique in a lot of ways. The fact that we have our own state agency really is one of the things that makes us the most sought-after career tech system in the nation, if you will. We're able to be flexible and nimble and turn on a dime and create these programs. Several years ago during the pandemic, I know we want to forget that, Secretary Blaine Arthur called and said, hey, we have these pack and plant shortages, and we need this curriculum stood up and set up, and this has been 2021. We had curriculum set up in, 8 weeks or something. That doesn't happen across the nation. That is phenomenal, and due to a lot of people putting a lot of hard work in, but being able to make those changes rather quickly. Another way that we're unique is you have a professional organization in Oklahoma that has actual staff that is not volunteer and doesn't have other jobs. This is our only job. There are three full-time and one part-time that works there to serve our 4,500 members. We're the only state that functions that way. We're the largest state by about 2,500 members. And so we take that very seriously, and we just want to keep growing. The other thing that makes us unique, and I was talking to the director about this yesterday, we'll go to Vision in December, late November, and they set aside a time for the state director of CareerTech and for the association executive director to meet. And I always thought that was interesting. Well, we've done this a few years, and as I got to asking other directors, executive directors, why they do that, they said, well, we never see our state director. We never talk to them. We don't know them. I'm like, how do you do your job? How do you do what's best for the system if you don't collaborate and walk a parallel line? And in other states, they're quite broken in that fashion. So I think it's just a blessing that we're able, Director Haken and I talk multiple times a day and about where we're headed, what is the best strategy for that? What does it look like? What does our system really need? And we have the tough conversations so that we can always constantly be on the exact same page. That is the best way to move this amazing system forward. So those are some of the things we do. Conference, you all heard about conference. We do that collaboratively. We're also the only state in the nation that functions in that way. There are things that we can do because we are not a governmental entity that the state agency can't do, and vice versa. There's some things that the state agency has capabilities of doing and access to do that we can't do. The fact that we can collaborate in that way gives our members and the folks that the state agency serves as well the best experience possible. Our state conference is as big as the national ACTE conference. We serve the exact same amount of people, and it's phenomenal. And I know many of you have been, and we would love to have you all come again. We got to honor Randy Gilbert this year, which was really a fun surprise, and congratulations to that. I know I've told you, but truly deserved, sir. So we love to work together and collaboratively on conference to serve the best PD to get our group together and kind of kick off the school year. And as I've said, the thing that we are charged with at the association to do, our most important job is advocacy on behalf of the system. So from the association, we will do the policy. We will write most of the policy legislation. That is not on itself. We will do that in conjunction with the agency. How does this work logistically? How does this really, if this becomes law, what does that really look like? So we will do that in tandem with the agency. The agency and you all as a board set what that appropriations request is, and we go to the Capitol and we fight for that just as much as we do the policy. In fact, when we make the document, it has our policy on one side, our appropriations request on the other side, and we go and fight for both of those things equally and have and very engaged in all of that. We will track about 700, between 600 and 700 bills each year at the beginning of session. That is because CareerTech is so diverse and so expansive. We will watch everything from economic development, things that affect higher ed, things that affect K-12. We have workforce issues, licensure issues. This year, and I know you all are familiar, we're right in the middle of graduation requirement changes. How does that affect our students? How can we get students that have all of the skills they need, all of the knowledge they need, and we believe that is a part of CareerTech as well. We're talking about those things. We work on economic development, workforce, you name it. We track a lot of bills. Out of about 3,500, we'll track between 600 and 700 of those. And so that just tells you how large our system is. Last couple of things I want to share with you, and I'll open up for questions. We will be hosting a legislative roadshow on October 30th. We have spent the last 3 or 4 years going around and doing one-on-one interviews with new elected officials to give them kind of a presentation. It's a little bit of death by PowerPoint, if you will. They sit through a PowerPoint. We talk about what the system looks like, and it's a bit, it's a lot for them to consume. So what we want to do this time is bring them together and take them on a bit of a tour around the state. We're going to start at Central Tech. We're going to do some things there. We're going to go see a FACS program, an ag program. We're going to go to the agency, have lunch with business and industry, and then we'll end back up at Central Tech. We're hoping to have a second date where we will go see the TAP program superintendent and where possibly, potentially one of our skill centers. And so we're working through what that looks like. But I share that with you. If you all would like to join us on October 30th, we can get you that information and take the tour with us. We will have some legislators with us, and we'll do a couple of these because getting a large group of legislators on the same day, especially during interim studies, is a bit of a challenge. We are in the middle of interim studies, and I know the director will share with you in his report the ones that he has presented at, and I just want to tell you, he's done a phenomenal job representing our system, having some tough conversations, talking about why CareerTech. Sometimes people wonder why CareerTech should be in the middle of, say, graduation requirements conversation. Well, we should, because we kind of see a lot of these kids and their needs. You talked about it this morning. How do we get more of them in the system? Well, that has to do with their graduation requirements. We keep adding more and more and more things that these students have to check the box on before they can graduate. And it's starting to not really allow them to come to any of our programs, whether that's at a tech center or even some of the 1-hour programs at their sending schools. So we want to make sure we're in that. But we are in the middle of a lot of interim studies, watching those. And if you all ever want to join in, you can tune in, okhouse.gov or oksenate.gov. There are a lot of really important conversations this year. Sometimes interim studies are hit or miss, but they're tackling some really big issues. And I think we're going to see a lot of legislation coming out this year that have come from interim studies. That doesn't happen every year, but I think we'll see that this year. The last little tidbit I want to share with you is many years ago, before I was here and before Director Haken was here, we had an economic impact study done on the system, and it's a little bit old and worn. We're still using that data because that's what we have. So we, the association, the agency, some tech center superintendents, we're going to come together and host a new economic development study. We're talking to firms right now about what that looks like and how we can get the best numbers that are really solid numbers. We want solid numbers to go share with the legislature in this next session. And so we're working through that and really excited about getting some new numbers. And we suspect, and I think we'll be right, that they'll be really, really impressive numbers. With that, if it's appropriate, I'll be happy to take questions.
What questions would you all have for Sky? I appreciate you coming to present.
Do you work with the Public Schools Association, their professional association, as far as maybe some things that can be collaborated on?
Absolutely, yes, sir. So we, OKACTE, I'm a member of the Oklahoma Education Coalition, which is mostly a group of lobbyists where we can get together and talk about legislation. We are housed in the OSSBA building. Our office is right there on the first floor, which is directly across from COSA. I talk to Pam pretty frequently, regularly, and Sean is in my building. And so we work with those organizations, to your point, to talk about how does this cross over, how can we do better. We are also trying to work more closely with the counselors, with school counselors, to talk about how they can, they're overwhelmed. I don't need to tell you all on that, but how we can work closely with them as well. So we do collaborate frequently. I have a lunch tomorrow with many of the lobbyists from those organizations.
I don't have a question, just a comment. Thank you for what you do for CareerTech. We are, if not we are one of the best in the nation, because it takes a team effort and I mean, you work closely with Director Hakins and all of the tech superintendents as well as the comprehensive high school program. So
Absolutely.
thank you for what you do.
Thank you. It is really nice. I will tell you, we're set in a really great position, and because your association and your agency work so closely together, that doesn't happen across all the states. And we in Oklahoma are really fortunate that we have that ability to work together, and we can pull on each other's strengths and work together with the legislature. Our legislature is unique in the fact that it's really quick. It's February through May. There's a lot of them. There's 150 of them. And Director Haken and I can tackle that collectively and together and put us in the best position to be successful. And he does a great job. I know he has many other duties that pull at him. And last year, we used him a lot at the Capitol to get to introduce him to legislators. And he was on day 3 of the job and came in and gave presentations like he had been here for 20 years. And he's gained a tremendous amount of respect at the Capitol. And it's going to really show well this year.
And it's an ever-changing process due to the turnover of the legislators. So,
Ever-changing, yes, sir.
thank you.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
I kind of have a comment along what Randy was saying. Guys, I know most of you know Sky pretty well. Sky is a tremendous advocate at the Capitol. There are so many conversations around, there's always new ideas that come up, and we always want to be open to them. I've always appreciated Sky as very patient, very open with, look, we always want to get better, but does a great job of explaining the CareerTech system to new legislators, to the executive offices as well, to walk everyone through, here's part of why we've been successful, here's the model, here's how it works. She does a great job of pointing out, she's got just the litany there of individual stories of here's the success stories, but she's also very, very knowledgeable about the system. She can explain it to a layman very well, someone new to the legislature, and I do think she does a great job of that. And again, it's one of those things, when you constantly have new legislators, it's very important to be able to communicate this in a way that also is very open to, look, and again, I appreciate the director's always had this attitude as well, very open. We always want to improve, but we also want to make sure that everyone understands what's made our CareerTech system one of the best in the country, in a way that the legislature understands kind of, we don't want to mess with so much of the success there as well. So I want to thank her. She's always been very good, especially when I was first up here at the Capitol, of explaining it all to me in a way that I could speak more intelligently about it and really understand it. And so I've always recommended, hey, if you got any questions, let her, she does a great presentation that you really do in about 20 or 30 minutes. I'm like, just go sit through that, and then let's kind of go from there. So anyway, I really appreciate the work you're doing, and again, heard so many stories at the Capitol and so many superintendents around the state that are just so positive on the work you're doing. So very much appreciate that, Sky.
Really is my pleasure. Superintendent did have to sit through death by PowerPoint. We'd be happy to share that with any of you, and we just want to be a resource to the board as well. Thank you for your service. I know this is a labor of love for many of you, and many of you drive a long way. And so collectively, we all in this room and across the state are just going to continue to be the best system in the nation. And it is really, truly, not just because I get paid, it is really my honor to represent you all and our system at the Capitol. And it's in my blood, and I love it. So if I can ever be of assistance, please let me know.
I have one other question.
Yes, sir.
Of 4,500 members, is there a certain requirement to be a member?
You have to, well, no, there's various levels, but our target audience is any professional in the CareerTech system, whether you are an instructor, an administrator, you're on staff, you're,
If you're not in the
support staff. We have another level where you can be a part of the, you can be a member, yes, if you are not in the system, an affiliate member, which you get all of the exact same benefits as being a traditional member. Yes, sir.
like a local business?
Yes. You can be as a business, or you can be an individual. And we also have various levels where we partner with businesses all the time to help put on our events, and through sponsorships. We have a very aggressive, our dues are very low. It's well, it's more than that because you have to pay your national dues, but what we get from those dues only is $60, and that has been forever. We do not want to raise that on our teachers. Yes, sir. We do not want to raise that on our teachers, and so we have a very aggressive sponsorship program. We have a lady in the office who, that is her sole job, and she hustles really hard to make sure that we're not taxing and burdening our instructors, our administrators, whomever that is, any of our members, to have to pay an exorbitant amount. Some of these states will be $300-400. And our dues to conference that we host together with the agency is very low to get in and to register for conference. And we way underprice that, but the goal is we want everyone to come and it to not be a burden because many of our folks have to pay that out of pocket. And we know that that comes out of their money they could be putting somewhere else. So we're very conscious of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Scott.
Thank you for your time.
Next on the agenda, we have the annual accreditation training for the state board by Miss Jessica Ventris.
Nope, you're good.
Very exciting. Are you guys excited?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Also, in your packets is the conflict of interest forms that we have to have you sign every year, and this is for our 8 schools that we will be accrediting next year. So if you would look that over and sign that. We are also required to provide training to you all every year on our accreditation processes. Some of you, Randy, have been through this many times, could probably do this for me, but. All right, so is there a clicker or do you do that? All right, so the U.S. Department of Education recognizes this board as our approval entity for our accreditations, and Oklahoma Department of CareerTech, the accreditation office, conducts the activities for the accreditation, and then we bring that back to you for approval. Why? Okay, why do we accredit technology centers? We want to look at the programs, the quality of the programs when we're on site. The school administrators and staff learn about best practices and opportunities for improvement within their school. We want to ensure that the technology center's practices align with various statutes and regulations, and to determine the eligibility for students to receive financial aid. We have to be accredited for those students to receive those funds. We also, it's a peer review, so technology centers learn from each other. We can identify the strengths and opportunities for improvement from each other, comparing our technology centers. We learn about best practices from each other. Examiners that participate are also from technology centers, and they are also able to learn from their fellow examiners from other technology centers across the state, again, to receive financial aid, and also other, in our rules, other state and federal funding. These are our numbers. Currently, we have 28 technology centers that participate in student financial aid. Those are those numbers, and then also programs that are approved for Title IV also are approved to receive Oklahoma Promise and Oklahoma Tuition Aid Grant. These are the 7 quality standards that this board has approved years ago. These are the areas that we look at when we're doing an accreditation: leadership and administration, instruction and training, support services, measurement and analysis, personnel, operations, and system impact. The school can earn full accreditation, probational accreditation, accreditation dropped, accreditation reinstated, and these do not exceed 5 years. So every 5 years, our technology centers go through this process. However, we do review it annually through our agency's program approval process, and then they receive a letter from us annually. This is the kind of the processes that our technology centers go through. They are also required to receive training. So every year, they're going through that right now, actually, the 8 schools that are next year. They write an application. They coordinate with our office to facilitate the visit. They participate in the visit. They have an opportunity to read the feedback report and provide comments to us, a rebuttal process. They have to write a corrective action plan if that is necessary. We do ask someone from the Technology Center to attend our board meeting that we bring the feedback report to. They write an action plan for continuous improvement, and they participate in a 3-year monitoring visit. So that action plan is, they are asked to select one opportunity for improvement from each standard, from standards 1 through 6, and to work on that over the next 5 years. And we monitor where they're at, the status of those at their 3-year monitoring visit. It's important to mention here that when you guys see those reports, those opportunities for improvement, that's exactly what they are. They're options for the schools to work on. That's not a corrective action. That's just part of the process. The examiners are also required to complete training. That is all online now. They do participate in a virtual, we did one just yesterday for an upcoming visit, a virtual training before the visit. New examiners are required to attend, but we also ask returning examiners to attend as well if they can, due to changes every year, it seems like. Then they participate in the visit. We do interviews and observations. They write the strength and opportunity for improvement statements that you guys see in your feedback reports. We do edit, we do combine, because a lot of similarities come out in those statements, and then they actually score their standards that they are responsible for. The feedback reports that you guys see, that is the average examiner scores for each standard. Then you see the strength and opportunity for improvement statements. We monitor those statements, like I said, during our 3-year monitoring visit. And the corrective action items are any areas not in compliance, and those typically deal with the compliance section in Standard 6. And then the Technology Center, they have to have a plan for that corrective action item. In their board report that you guys receive, they have 60 days after board approval to get that implemented, and we follow up on that. However, in my tenure, those have been corrected before we ever come to board, and we let you guys know that. All of the 4 schools this year, you guys will receive those reports after the first of the year. We continue our hybrid visits because based on survey feedback, our schools and examiners enjoy this model, and so we continue to do that. The length of our visits is determined by the size of the school and how many campuses they have. The first 1 to 3 days of every visit is virtual group interviews. So we do those on Zoom, in breakout rooms with Technology Center staff and examiners, and then we travel on site. Again, the time frame depends on the size of the school, but while we're on site, we do program observations as well as one-on-one interviews with staff and students. We review the compliance items when we're on site, and again, follow up on anything that needed to be followed up from the virtual portion. Over the last few years, we've done some improvements to our processes. Nothing in our guidelines has changed. This is process stuff that we see every year, and we do some tweaks to it sometimes from visit to visit. Our examiners have more specific assignments. They are assigned to 2 standards. We also do some assignments as far as interviews are concerned. We've streamlined with an online system our data collection process online. And then the final assessments is also streamlined because they have less assignments. This year we have team leaders on our examiner teams to help the accreditation staff make sure everything's getting accomplished that needs to get accomplished. And it also helps our new examiners a lot to have that contact. We've updated our Technology Center training, which is great. All of our schools have been through this process now. So our online training is available to them, and they can have various staff members depending on who's writing what section of their application. We have all of that training broken down so that they don't have to do all of it. They can just focus on the areas that they are responsible for. And then we also have virtual Q&A sessions with our school. For example, in November, we will have one with the 8 schools that are coming up. And what's great about those sessions is we allow them to share what is working, what is not working for their schools, and they share some best practices to help each other out through this process. So these are the 4 schools we are visiting this year. We have Northeast actually next week and Pontotoc Technology Center in 2 weeks. And these are our 2024 schools. We actually have 8, 3 of those being back-to-back. It's going to be very fun. And I welcome any of you to attend any of these visits, and I hope Mr. Brown kind of speaks up here in just a second. We were blessed with his presence at Great Plains. I think that's excellent for you guys to kind of see how this process works, that you get to approve. You guys have seen me do some distance education approval. Our agency received an expansion of scope a couple years ago to include distance education. Our other accreditations are institutional. There's 2 types, institutional and programmatic accreditation. Except for distance education, that is at the programmatic level. And after initial approval, after you guys approve those programs that have a portion of distance education, then it becomes part of their institutional accreditation. Because this is new to our system, we do go back and do a follow-up visit. I think you guys have heard me say that, just to make sure we're monitoring that seat time and it's the students doing the work. These are the standards that distance education looks at. Again, program integrity. When we do distance education approvals, we take our program specialist with us that's over that area. So if it's a, I don't know, something at a BMIT program, we're going to take a specialist over that area. They're going to look at program integrity, resources and technology. We're going to look at how the instruction is given, skill alignment, support services, marketing and recruitment, and student engagement and satisfaction in the process. How was that, Director Haken? Okay. What questions? I know. What questions do you guys have?
No questions. I just want to say, you know, you do a great job showing, explaining it to us, and on the accreditation, you know, when y'all bring it to us, it's very thorough, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
love
for
it.
what you do.
I think it's a
Thank
great
you.
process.
Thank you.
Oh, are you ready for my comment?
Yes. Oh, yes. I need you to make a comment.
I just want everyone to know how impressive it is to see these folks show up and do their thing. And I'm just going to throw an idea out, which we've already talked about, so hopefully you don't get mad at me about this.
I won't.
You know, you have 30, 35 folks from around the whole state of Oklahoma showing up at a community. And so I was a little embarrassed that we didn't know about it as a community. And not as a board member, but as a community, to potentially embrace them and maybe be able to brag about what we're about, which is what we tried to do, except we got hit by almost a tornado. But maybe that was a message, but
Yeah.
but anyhow, it's a significant thing for 35 people from around. It's almost like Leadership Oklahoma shows up in your community. You know, when Leadership Oklahoma shows up, there's a whole lot of people pay attention to that. So I think we have an opportunity to brag about our system a little bit by having a significant group of people showing up in a community. So maybe we, on the PR side or the alert side, let the chamber know, or whoever the mayor is, or wherever, just know that we're there. I don't know if that is something that is kosher or not, but I think it's an opportunity for us to continue to be vigilant about what a great message that CareerTech has. But just to make sure that everyone understands, I was incredibly impressed.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
It's a lot of examiners.
yeah. I was scared, actually. I told Clarence Fortney here. that you
We're not
can
the
have-
IRS.
I get to leave. I'm out of here. Okay.
So there's no action item on this item, correct?
Nope.
Right, that was
Just
just.
the training. Thank you.
Okay, next we have discussion and vote of the 2024 CareerTech Business Plan, and that'll be presented by Director Haken.
Yeah, so thank you, Superintendent. This business plan was presented to you last month in a draft form, so you could look over it, spend some time reading through it if you had any questions, comments, so that we can make final approval on that business plan. I would direct your attention to page 2, just to hit some highlights once more. The biggest highlight being at the top there on page 2, 9.5% increase in enrollments in the CareerTech system. We expect that will continue. it'd be hard to speculate how much growth, but I keep getting reports from superintendents and schools, K-12 schools, about how they're adding to their CareerTech program, so I think that's fantastic. Along through there, you'll see some of our goals, kind of the focus and direction of which we're moving, so that's helpful in this business plan. We use this for a variety of things, to drop off at potential schools, to drop off with legislators, to talk through all the things that may be out there. Russell and his team actually put this together and do a great job, so if you have any questions, I'm sure he'd be willing to answer those. You'll see our appropriations request in there again, and I'm going through it briefly since we went through it last month. Our CareerTech champion stories are a huge highlight for the communities to hear about what their students have done, but also our state to talk about what they've done. Randy, as he left, he was just dropping off another potential that we have. A welding instructor was just telling Randy and myself the other day about a success story that he had of a student that had a choice from a judge, either go to jail or go to CareerTech, and now is an employed welder, and so a pretty cool story. So I think that would be a pretty big thing that he could share that spotlight. I had another one while I was with State Chamber in a little deviation from the plan, but it was with State Chamber in D.C. talking to Marcus Wright that owns Wright Oilfield Service. That was a individual that came from a single-parent household and was trying to decide, what he was going to do with his life, and jumped in a welding program, and now owns a multi-million-dollar business. So pretty big deal, going from a hard upbringing to a very successful life. So great to tell about our champions and the business plan. If there is no discussion, I would think the chair would take a recommendation to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second. Can you call roll for us?
Superintendent Walters,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Hillary,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Wesson. Yes. Mr. Dillingham.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have discussion and vote to approve or disapprove a resolution requesting that an election be called in Beaver County for the annexation of Beaver County, Oklahoma to the High Plains Technology Center, and this will be presented by Director Haken also.
It's pretty exciting, and if we have questions, we'll call Justin up. We've been spending a lot of time in Beaver, Oklahoma. We're almost residents out there. So just like the superintendent was talking earlier about High Plains Technology Center and the things that they're doing to reach into the schools, Beaver County has realized they don't have that opportunity for any of their students. They're also seeing a decline in population because there's no jobs for people to go to, and the solution that they have come up with our guidance is to provide an opportunity for their kids and adults and businesses to take advantage of a technology center. So this proposition, if approved, would allow those people to have a vote to decide if they want to be a part of High Plains Technology Center. So I think it's great that they're trying to expand and trying to do something for their communities, for their kids, for their adults, and for businesses to thrive in that area. So what questions may you have? My recommendation would be to approve. Justin, any other comments, thoughts?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Do you mind calling roll?
Okay, Mr. Dillingham,
Yes.
Ms. Wesson,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Hillary,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Superintendent Walters.
Yes, motion approved. That's an exciting vote right there, folks. So that's great news, Director.
So most likely that will be January, right, Justin, that they would put that on a January 9th. We will, just so you guys know, we will act at the will of those communities if they need help or support with town halls. That's how our agency will act. We will not go out there to be overly promoting. I think that puts a negative taste in people's mind when the government's out there to sell them on a bill of goods, but we'll let the communities decide how they want our services, and we'll be happy to provide those.
Excellent. Next, we've got a discussion and vote on a letter of intent with Family and Children's Services.
So Family and Children's Services, not a whole lot of detail here, but they are trying to apply for the opioid abatement settlement so they can receive a grant from them. We work with this institution already for our adult and family education, so Women in Recovery is part of this group as well, and so we work quite a bit with them. What's unique about this and why you're seeing it is typically with grants, we can submit a letter of support without coming to the board. That the AG opinion was that this settlement should require board action if we are intending to support them applying for this grant. What it does is really allows them to apply. Not saying that they have a grant yet or that we've declared what the grant is going to do, but this is the first step to allow them to even apply for the grant. After talking with their representatives, I feel confident of what they're trying to do is reach people that have had struggles and trying to overcome obstacles to get them into better situations. So we know that that's what their organization is all about, and we're happy to continue to support them. So my recommendation would be to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Could you call roll for us?
Superintendent Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Wesson?
Yes.
Mr. Dillingham?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Second comment on that, a designee will be appointed by me for their contact. That will be Letha Botter. She is our manager over federal programs, but also oversees the adult and family education program. Okay.
Excellent. So is that, we cover everything, Director?
I think we have covered quite a bit in a hurry. That was a lot. Any
That was very
questions?
good.
Yeah.
I have two comments real quick.
Uh-huh.
First one is, I have to say, there's a TAP program in Lawton, so, and it's awesome. But an idea would be, we have a lack of instructors, so that's one of the bigger challenges I've heard. I've been asking around, and it's like we have 11,000 people on a waiting list. Why is that? Well, we don't have enough instructors, so either we say an instructor can teach more kids or get more instructors. So one idea would be providing a tax break to an instructor rather than money. So the reason behind that is if you have people that are already doing pretty well in the economy, they may be interested in helping being an instructor, maybe even in the evening if they get a tax break for doing it. So there's that, we got to do things different. We're supposed to be looking for change, right?
Yeah.
So there's an idea for you just to hash around, is one way to get instructors. The second one is that there is the potential for turf wars, as you may understand, between public schools and CareerTech. So we're headed towards that potentially when we take programs 9th and 10th grade that are supposed to hopefully be tied into what we're doing as CareerTech in 11th and 12th grade, right? So do we have a task force? Do we have a certain committee, anybody that's maybe trying to mitigate that challenge before it continues to fester? Okay, so predicting potential challenges is also a part of leadership. So in my mind's eye, it's something to consider if we're continue to be the leader that we have enjoyed being in the past, not to wait for other organizations to take the lead on that, i.e. public schools or whoever else may be out there. But CareerTech says, hey, we see this potential challenge, and we're acting in a way to try and help mitigate that challenge. So anyhow, those are my two comments. And maybe you might put on our agenda board comments,
Okay.
an item where actually board members have a chance to comment. So anyhow, I'm done.
Great, and yeah, and you're welcome to do those at any time. As long as they're not action items, we don't have to have an agenda item. So if you have comments at any time, you're more than welcome. But we could put a spot on there as well where we could just have open discussion, and we can topic those things too. If we want to have discussion over certain areas and you have interest, let us know so we can get that on there as well. So the things that you mentioned are great input, great thoughts. Turf wars, we are mitigating that currently through our program specialists, and then we also are working through Gina as Director of Outreach. That's kind of part of her role now, and why we built that directorship is so she can take those inputs and figure out how we need to mitigate the situation the best. So that's great. We're kind of on the same page there, and that's kind of why that role is built in. So
Awesome.
it's good. Very good.
And Mike, I think too, Director Haken and I can continue to work on that as we're looking at, again, Lawton having a TAP program, Woodward having one, that we can start facilitating a lot of those conversations to use them as kind of proof points to help others not feel that because I do think you're right. We have to acknowledge that, I think that the director does a great job of outreach across the board, but we do have the siloing and the turf wars that still can happen. And so to be, offensive there, to go, hey, before it even festers, let's get out in front of this. Let's really put some things together. We can put some thought into that. And
Well, that's why I asked Guy
Yeah.
that
Yes.
question specifically, was because are you working with with public school systems as well because of that potential?
Yeah, so Kevin Heim and I have had quite a bit of discussion about this already, because they're a larger school and what they can offer their students through their comprehensive career tech programs is great. So how can we make sure that that's a true partnership and not one competing with the other? So that's a good idea.
And also, I will say, the director does a great job, but when he's out around the state, he goes to a career tech, and he's often meeting with the school superintendents. I try to go visit the superintendents and visit the career tech so that we're all talking together. He's calling before I arrive, I'm calling before he arrives, we're all in. So I think it makes it too, we're trying to do that proactively to just where it's cohesive. Hey, we want to make sure we know what you're doing, vice versa. We're having those communications. So we'll keep looking at that, Mike. I think you're spot on with that. I think that there's a lot that can be mitigated just by getting out in front of that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I commend you two for that attitude. That's the right way to approach it.
Well, if we're going to move our kids forward, we both got to work together.
Well, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn. We will take that if anybody's got one.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Can you call roll for us one more time?
Yes, I can. Superintendent Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Hillary?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Wesson? Yes. Mr. Dillingham?
Yes.
Okay, so adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.